Hey there, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
You know how this works.
Mm-hmm.
You send us your sources, and we dig in
That's right.
and uncover the fascinating stuff that folks might miss on the first read.
Yep.
Today, we're talking about George Orwell,
Right.
specifically Animal Farm in 1984,
Two of the greats.
and your source material, excerpts from Animal Farm in 1984, georgeorwell.pdf, hint at a really intriguing backstory on these books.
Oh, yeah.
So buckle up, because we're about to uncover the surprising tales of publication struggles, suppression attempts, and the real-world impact of these two iconic works.
Well, what's really striking right off the bat is that Animal Farm especially had a really, really difficult time finding a publisher.
Really?
This was during World War II.
Oh, wow.
And even though Orwell was already somewhat established as a writer, major publishers turned it down. Can you believe that even Victor Galant's, a leftist publisher, rejected it?
It's wild, right? You'd think a book critiquing totalitarian regimes would be a shoo-in for a publisher who championed freedom and equality.
You would think so.
But apparently, even then, certain ideas were considered too controversial.
It's true.
It really makes you wonder what else might be out there, hidden away because it challenged the status quo.
Absolutely. It raises questions about whose voices get heard, whose stories get told.
Yeah.
Eventually, a smaller publishing house, Saraker and Warburg, took a chance on Orwell.
Oh.
But even then, it was a tiny first edition with a modest advance of only £45.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, that's roughly $2,020 today.
Talk about a literary bargain.
Right.
But here's where things take a truly unexpected turn.
Oh.
It wasn't critics or intellectuals who first recognized the power of Animal Farm,
Okay.
but a group of Ukrainian socialists living in refugee camps after World War II.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
These were people who had firsthand experience with the very system Orwell was critiquing in the book,
Yeah.
Soviet-style communism.
Right.
They understood its dangers in a way that many Westerners, even those who opposed Stalin, couldn't fully grasp.
Yeah.
Orwell was so moved by their understanding that he actually wrote a special introduction just for a Ukrainian edition of Animal Farm
Wow.
and granted them free reprint rights.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You'd think that would be the end of the story, right? The book finds its perfect audience, people who truly connect with its message.
Makes sense.
But unfortunately, it's not that simple.
What happened?
The American military, after the war, seized a huge number of these Ukrainian editions. And, well, let's just say they didn't exactly encourage their circulation.
Really?
Yeah.
What did they do?
They ended up in the hands of the Red Army, destined to be burned.
Wow.
Imagine that a book criticizing totalitarianism being destroyed by the very forces that claim to oppose it.
It's really something.
It highlights the complex realities of ideology and how easily even well-intentioned actions can be twisted.
You're telling me.
It's a stark reminder that power, regardless of who wields it, can be used to suppress ideas that challenge the established order. And sadly, the attempts to censor Orwell's work didn't stop there.
It didn't.
Even 1984, which achieved significant commercial success, faced pushback.
Oh, wow.
The Book of the Month Club in the U.S., a major book distributor at the time,
Right.
wanted to remove certain sections they deemed too Trotskyist. This likely refers to passages that drew parallels with Leon Trotsky,
Okay.
a rival of Stalin who criticized the direction of the Soviet Union.
I see.
Orwell, true to his principles, refused their demands.
Good for him.
This was a risky move, potentially costing him a lot of money, but he wasn't willing to compromise his artistic vision or his message.
It speaks to his integrity as a writer and his understanding of the slippery slope of censorship.
Yeah.
Even seemingly small concessions can pave the way for greater control over ideas and expression.
It seems like he'd faced enough suppression to know exactly what he was dealing with.
Right.
But the irony doesn't end there. During the Cold War, the CIA and organizations supposedly dedicated to fighting communism
Right.
actually produced an animated version of Animal Farm to use as propaganda.
Wow.
And guess what they did?
What?
They completely removed the ending.
Oh, come on.
You know the part where the farm reverts back to human control? The pigs become indistinguishable from the humans, and the whole cycle of oppression starts anew.
Wow.
It's incredible, isn't it? Even those who claim to oppose totalitarianism were willing to manipulate Orwell's work to fit their own narrative.
Unbelievable.
It just goes to show that anyone in a position of power can be tempted to twist the truth for their own ends.
It's true.
It makes you really appreciate how bold and unflinching Orwell was in his writing.
Yeah.
But let's move beyond the publication drama for a moment and delve into what makes these books so powerful in the first place.
Okay.
One thing that always strikes me about Orwell is his incredible use of language.
Hmm.
Even in Animal Farm, which is written as a fable, his
Mhm.
words have this amazing clarity and persuasive force.
You're absolutely right. Remember Old Major's speech?
Oh, yeah.
It's a masterclass in rhetoric, painting a vivid picture of the animal's suffering and igniting the spark of revolution.
It's so effective because it's so simple, so direct.
Yeah.
There's no jargon, no complicated theories, just a raw and honest portrayal of the animal's plight. It's the kind of language that anyone can understand and be moved by.
For sure.
Let's actually listen to a snippet of that speech.
Okay.
The part where Old Major describes the harsh realities of life under human rule.
All right. Now, comrades, what is the nature of this life of ours? Let us face it. Our lives are miserable, laborious, and short. We are born, we are given just so much food as will keep the breath in our bodies, and those of us who are capable of it are forced to work to the last atom of our strength. At the very instant that our usefulness has come to an end, we are slaughtered with hideous cruelty. No animal in England knows the meaning of happiness or leisure after he is a year old. No animal in England is free. The life of an animal is misery and slavery. That is the plain truth.
Wow, even hearing it read aloud, it's hard not to feel the weight of those words.
Yeah.
They cut right through any illusions or justifications exposing the brutal reality of oppression.
It's this ability to speak truth to power, to cut through propaganda and hypocrisy that makes Orwell's writing so enduring.
Yeah.
Even though it's presented in the context of a fable about animals.
Right.
It resonates deeply with anyone who's ever experienced injustice or exploitation.
And it's not just the words themselves, but how Orwell uses them to create these unforgettable scenes. Take the Battle of the Cowshed, for example.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a vivid and gripping portrayal of the animal's first victory over the humans.
That scene captures the raw energy and chaos of revolution.
Yeah.
You can almost feel the adrenaline, the fear, the determination of the animals as they fight for their freedom.
Totally.
It's a powerful reminder that even the most oppressed can rise up and challenge those in power.
The detail Orwell uses is incredible.
Yep.
The strategic maneuvers, the individual acts of bravery, even the sense of confusion and disorientation that comes with any violent struggle. You're right there in the thick of it with the animals.
But as we know, revolutions are rarely straightforward.
Right.
An Animal Farm doesn't shy away from exploring the complexities, the betrayals, and the moral compromises that often accompany such upheavals.
Yeah.
One character who embodies this is Molly, the pretty white mare.
Molly.
Yeah.
She represents those who are seduced by the allure of comfort and luxury, even if it means abandoning their principles. She longs for the days of ribbons and sugar cubes, symbols of the old order,
Right.
and ultimately chooses to flee Animal Farm rather than face the hardships of building a new society.
It's a reminder that even within revolutionary movements, there are those who are more interested in personal gain than in collective liberation.
Which is true.
Her character highlights the tensions between individual desires and the common good, a dilemma that has plagued countless revolutions throughout history.
And then, of course, there's the gradual distortion of the revolution itself.
Oh, yeah.
What starts as a noble effort to create a just and equal society slowly morphs into something far more sinister. One of the most striking examples of this is how the symbols and rituals of the revolution become twisted over time.
The skull of Old Major, for instance, initially a revered symbol of his vision for a better future, becomes just another prop in the pigs' increasingly elaborate displays of power.
Right.
It's a classic tactic of totalitarian regimes to manipulate symbols in history to solidify their control.
It's a chilling reminder that even the most well-intentioned movements can be corrupted from within.
Yeah.
The very things that were meant to inspire and unite the animals end up being used to control and manipulate them.
And this manipulation extends to the very language they use.
That's great.
The 7 Commandments of Animalism, initially a clear set of principles for a just and equal society, are gradually altered to justify the pig's increasing tyranny.
Right. No animal shall sleep in a bed becomes no animal shall sleep in a bed with sheets.
Exactly.
No animal shall drink alcohol becomes no animal shall drink alcohol to excess. And of course, the most chilling transformation of all animals are equal becomes all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
The rewriting of the commandments is a brilliant illustration of how those in power control language, to control thought.
It really is.
It's a gradual process, almost imperceptible at first,
Yeah.
until the original meaning is completely distorted.
It's terrifying to see how easily language can be used to justify oppression and to silence dissent.
It is.
And if Animal Farm serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of totalitarianism in a more allegorical way,
Right.
1984 takes us right into the heart of a full-blown dystopian nightmare.
In 1984, we meet Winston Smith,
Right.
a man struggling to hold on to his individuality in a world ruled by the omnipresent party. The atmosphere of constant surveillance, the thought police, the relentless propaganda, and the manipulation of history. It's a chilling vision of a society where even thinking the wrong thoughts is a crime.
One of the most disturbing images in the book is the 2 minutes hate.
Oh, yeah.
These ritualized outbursts of rage directed at Emmanuel Goldstein, the supposed enemy of the state.
The 2 minutes hate highlights the power of manufactured enemies.
Right.
How figures like Goldstein are used to focus hatred and fear, rallying support for the regime and diverting attention from its own failings.
Yeah.
And of course, the existence of Goldstein and his supposed brotherhood is highly questionable, likely a fabrication by the party to control the narrative.
It's a classic tactic of control, create an enemy, whether real or imagined, to unite the people against a common threat. And in 1984, the fear of Goldstein and the Brotherhood is used to justify the party's absolute power and to suppress any form of dissent.
Right.
It's like they say, if you want to control people, give them someone to hate. And the way Orwell describes the telescreens, those two-way surveillance devices that are everywhere, is just chillin'.
It's true.
It's like Big Brother is always watching, listening to your every word, monitoring your every move.
Yeah.
It feels eerily relevant to our current world with the rise of facial recognition, technology, data collection, and online surveillance.
It's that constant sense of being watched, of having no privacy, that creates a climate of fear and self-censorship.
Right.
People are afraid to speak their minds, even in their own homes, because they never know who might be listening.
And then there's Syme, the linguist working on the Newspeak dictionary.
Oh, right.
He's actually excited about the project, seeing it as a way to simplify language and make thought more efficient. But even he, a loyal party member, is eventually vaporized because he's seen as too intelligent, too insightful.
Syme's fate highlights the party's fear of independent thought.
Right.
Newspeak isn't just about simplifying language.
Yeah.
It's about limiting thought by eliminating words and concepts that could challenge the party's ideology.
The idea is to make it literally impossible to think rebellious thoughts because you don't even have the words to express them. It's mind-blowing. One of the most striking examples of this is the word duck speak, which Syme explains to Winston.
Okay.
It can mean either mindless praise for the party or mindless condemnation of an enemy, depending on the context.
Duckspeak perfectly encapsulates the party's doublethink.
Yeah.
The ability to hold two contradictory beliefs simultaneously and accept both as true.
Right.
It's the mental gymnastics required to survive in a totalitarian state where truth is constantly being manipulated.
It's like the party wants to turn everyone into mindless parrots, just repeating the official line without any critical thought.
Right.
Speaking of controlling thought, the party's manipulation of the past is perhaps one of the most disturbing aspects of 1984.
It is.
Winston works in the Ministry of Truth,
Right.
where his job is to literally rewrite history to conform to the party's ever-changing narrative.
The party understands that controlling the past is essential to controlling the present and the future. If you can convince people that their memories are wrong, that history is whatever the party says it is, then you can control their perception of reality.
And the way they use doublethink to justify it is just mind-boggling. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. It's like saying up is down and black is white.
Right.
And the scariest part is that Winston, despite his initial resistance, eventually succumbs to this manipulation.
It shows the incredible power of propaganda and psychological manipulation.
Yeah.
When you're constantly bombarded with a certain narrative, when you're isolated from any alternative viewpoints, it becomes incredibly difficult to hold on to your own sense of reality.
It's like being gaslighted on a societal scale.
Right.
And then there's the Chestnut Tree Cafe, this dingy hangout for disgraced party members who've been broken by the system.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a living graveyard for those who dared to think for themselves.
The Chestnut Tree Cafe is a symbol of the party's ultimate victory, the crushing of individual spirit and the acceptance of total submission. It's where hope goes to die, where people become empty shells of their former selves.
It's a stark reminder of what can happen when individuals are isolated and silenced, when they're deprived of any sense of community or shared purpose.
But amidst all this darkness, there's a glimmer of hope, a flicker of resistance, in Winston's belief that the proles, the working class, hold the key to a better future.
The proles.
Yeah.
He sees them as less indoctrinated by the party's propaganda, more connected to their instincts and emotions.
Okay.
He believes that their sheer numbers, their potential for collective action, could one day overthrow the party.
But is this belief in the proles' potential for rebellion a genuine hope, or simply a desperate fantasy?
It's a good question.
Orwell leaves us to ponder that question, suggesting that even if the proles were to revolt, they might simply replace one form of tyranny with another.
It's a sobering reminder that revolution doesn't always lead to liberation. Sometimes it just leads to a different set of oppressors. And then, of course, there's O'Brien, the mysterious inter-party member, who Winston initially believes is a fellow rebel. It turns out he's the mastermind behind Winston's capture and torture.
O'Brien represents the insidious nature of power, its ability to corrupt even those who seem to oppose it. He's intelligent, articulate, and utterly ruthless in his pursuit of total control.
The scenes where he tortures Winston both physically and psychologically are some of the most disturbing in the book.
They are.
It's like watching a master manipulator at work breaking down Winston's resistance piece by piece until he's a hollowed-out shell of his former self.
O'Brien embodies the party's belief that power is not a means to an end, but an end in itself.
Wow.
He doesn't seek power to create a better world.
Yeah.
He seeks it for the sheer pleasure of domination.
And Room 101.
101.
Where Winston is forced to confront his deepest fear, is the ultimate symbol of this total control.
Yeah.
It's where the individual will is completely broken, where love and loyalty are twisted into instruments of torture.
In Room 101, Winston betrays everything he holds dear, including his love for Julia.
It's awful.
It's a chilling reminder of the power of fear and the lengths to which totalitarian regimes will go to maintain their grip on power.
The ending of the book, with Winston's complete submission to the party, is one of the most bleak and unforgettable in literature.
It is.
He embraces Big Brother, accepts the party's version of reality, and becomes a true believer in the system that destroyed him.
It's a devastating conclusion that raises questions about the limits of human resilience and the seductive nature of power. But even in this darkness, Orwell offers a glimmer of hope in the appendix, where he outlines the principles of Newspeak.
Oh?
It's almost like a blueprint for how language can be used to control thought. But by understanding how it works, we can also resist its influence.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we must be vigilant in defending freedom of thought and expression, to challenge any attempts to manipulate language and limit our understanding of the world.
It really is mind-blowing how some of the things he wrote about constant surveillance, the manipulation of language, the rewriting of history feels so relevant to our world today.
It's like he had a crystal ball. And it's not just those big, obvious themes. Even the smaller details, like the way the party in 1984 uses slogans and propaganda to control people's thoughts. It's so similar to what we see happening with social media and targeted advertising today.
Totally. Think about the way algorithms curate our news feeds, showing us only information that reinforces our existing beliefs.
Exactly.
It creates these echo chambers where it's hard to even have a conversation with someone who has a different perspective. It's like everyone's living in their own little version of reality.
Exactly. And the way language is being used to divide people to create this us versus them mentality. It's straight out of the Newspeak playbook. Words are losing their meaning, being twisted and weaponized for political gain. It's scary how easily we can be manipulated when we're not paying attention.
It makes you wonder what Orwell would think if he could see the world today. Would he be horrified? Or would he see some glimmers of hope amidst all the darkness?
That's a great question. I think he'd definitely be concerned by the trends we're seeing, but I also believe he'd be inspired by the people who are fighting back. There are so many individuals and organizations out there who are dedicated to truth, justice, and freedom of expression. They're the ones who are keeping Orwell's spirit alive.
It's good to remember that even in the darkest of times, there are always those who refuse to give up hope. And their actions, however small they may seem, can make a real difference.
Absolutely. Orwell's works remind us that we all have a responsibility to be critical thinkers, to question authority, and to speak out against injustice. It's the only way to prevent his dystopian visions from becoming our reality.